everybody. As you know, my name is Vicki, and today I'm going to take about a half hour of our time today to share some wisdom and insight about what is holding us back from achieving our goals. And before I do that, I want to do a little exercise, and I wrote this little message here. And as you read it, I want you to share with it, just think for a minute, any words that stand out for you, anything that resonates for you. Just read this to yourself and share with me what comes to mind when you read this message. Does anybody want to share anything? Anything that stands out for you? Does the message resonate for you? Does it give you a sense of feelings?
The message definitely resonates with me, and it's relatable to how I feel quite often when I'm with my friends in my life, how inspired I feel, how supported I feel.
Thank you for sharing that. Is there anything else that you noticed?
Makes a lot of sense.
Angela, would you like to share if there's anything that you noticed?
Well, I love the concept. My mind did go to one particular area of it.
Can you share with me what stood out? What did you notice?
That the first word is misspelled.
Did you notice any of the other words were spelled correctly?
I noticed that all of them are spelled correctly.
But did the attention go to the fact, tell me what came through you when you first noticed that the first word was misspelled?
I thought, oh my gosh, does she know that that word is misspelled? Because it's such a great quote, but that there's two letters that are inversed. And then I was thinking for myself that I often inverse two letters, and I have to constantly go back and redo it. And so when I first read it, I was thinking, do I spell that wrong? Because she's an authority, so it must be right. But my experience tells me that I've done it right, so something's wrong there. And I love the whole quote, but my mind kept going back to that first word.
Well, I appreciate you stepping forward and sharing that in an environment when it's not going to be necessarily very comfortable, because usually when you see somebody in front of you that's sharing wisdom, it will be an impulse to think that they have a sense of authority, or that they have a message that you don't know and that they do know. And here's the bottom line. People are going to notice your mistakes. People are going to notice your mistakes, and the focus is usually going to be on the mistake versus the entire message or any other words. I wouldn't imagine that any of you, if you saw that, did you notice the word was misspelled? How did that make you feel about me? How did it make you feel?
I thought you had done it on purpose, so you're really concentrated on friends.
Well, there's things that go through our minds when you see these kind of experiences. Usually, the experience isn't that somebody's going to sit there and go, wow, look at all the words she spelled with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. You're not going to go, wow, she spelled 17 words correctly and only misspelled one word. So that still gives her a sense of authority. I would venture that if it were me, and that most of you possibly kept, if you noticed that it was misspelled, that your attention was drawn back to this, correct?
Yep. That was
And so you would ask, why? Is there something that I'm missing? Is there a message in this? You're going to go back to that because it doesn't feel right. It feels out of balance.
You were in a hurry.
Yeah, correct.
I totally didn't catch the misspell.
Okay. Well,
I went right over it because I was getting the whole message of the whole story and trying to think of the people that are angels in my life that do try to help me. I missed the misspell.
well, usually there's going to be some people who are going to miss it, but there's going to always be somewhere in our environment where we have a fear that making a mistake is going to block us from moving forward. And I use this in my personal life. I've been a mom for almost 29 years. And when we get together and we share stories about mom stories or labor stories or how we parented our children, very seldom are we going to hear dialogue where we will share in a way that says, you know, it feels so good when I have those days when I just sit and smell my daughter's hair after a bath and just snuggle in and hold her. I just feel like I'm such a competent mother because I want to share wisdom with her and to raise her to love herself. And when I fix meals, I just am so proud of myself that I give my children the right opportunities to build their body and strengthen their bodies. That's not a typical language when we come together. What usually will happen is we'll beat ourselves up on the one thing that we did wrong. And we get together and we beat ourselves up on what was the thing that we shared? I just feel like such a bad mom. I just feel like I yelled at my daughter and I was tired. I wish she just knew that I was tired. And sometimes I don't want to play that puzzle 16 more times. And it just overwhelms me and frustrates me. That's the language we tend to put our attention on. It's what we did wrong versus the other 23 and a half hours out of the day that we were present and kept our child safe or in a loving relationship with them. It's at moments at the end of the day, we're tired, we got them out of the bath, and they wanted to stay longer. And so what language do we share correctly? So I want to ask, do you count your mistakes or your accomplishments? Typically, usually the relationship that we have with ourselves is it's most common to count our mistakes versus our accomplishments. At the end of the day, we may have had multiple accomplishments. We could have had times when I was walking out of the store with my daughter and I kept her safe. There was 18 cars that we passed and I kept her safe the entire time. Not one car hit her, so I feel like I'm accomplished. And when we got home, I put the bags and the groceries into the refrigerator and then I sat her down with a healthy meal and I felt so glad because she ate all of her carrots. And when we had a play date today, I kept them safe, and when they were eating the carrots, nobody choked. I just am so grateful. I just did a really good job as a mom. That's not going to be how we were communicating, but we tend to follow that, oh gosh, I wish she would have just stayed in her seatbelt, and why does she fight me all the time? So you can understand what I'm sharing with that. So another way what I have found myself is when I'm cleaning all day, and at the end of the day, and I just want to sit down, and I'm exhausted. Do I look around and go, wow, this is super good. I feel confident that I've done well by my family. Well, yes, I hope I do, but I will also notice as the sun starts to set that there's grime on the windows and I didn't get the windows washed as well. And then it kind of bring me down. So I want to say that it is socially acceptable to point out the negative about who we are and about ourselves. And in the way that I would show up with this is when I was having a bad hair day, and today could qualify at that. I woke up at 4 o'clock this morning and came home from Salt Lake, and I had a hat on today because it was cold up there and the wind was blowing, so I was protecting my ears. So I felt like I could have had a bad hair day, and this could be a day where when you walk into my home, I said, oh gosh, please forgive me. It's been a long day. I didn't have time to do my hair. And I have a tendency to point out the negative so that nobody else feels that obligation to do that themselves. So nobody else has to point out and go, gosh, do I tell her? And it was much like this. I could have said, okay, just for the record, I noticed that I misspelled something wrong, so you don't have to point this out for me. I can point that out so that you can safely let that go. But bottom line, I would point out my flaws so that other people wouldn't feel that obligation to do that. So the things about approaching a new way of thinking and how to engage in our life is that whatever we put our attention on will increase. Whatever vibration that we are focusing on, what our thoughts are thinking about, this will increase that space. Focusing on possibly making a mistake can prevent us from moving forward. And quite honestly, there's been times where I've been very dependent on texting and the autocorrect will fix the word for me. And I'm like, oh goodness, did I, much like you said a little bit earlier, that there's a possibility, did I misspell that wrong? Is there something I wasn't familiar with? And the fear of misspelling a word, this is why I use this example, is that for me, sometimes that's one of the fears that I have when I do a presentation. And if I'm going to write a word up on the board, my fear of possibly misspelling that word could throw me off and limit me from moving forward. But when I look in the mirror, I focus on what I like and what I am proud of. And so I would like to encourage you to change your focus on and getting your goals. And I feel like as human beings, it's our innate wisdom to want for more than where we are today. That we don't come to live a life of 75, 85, 90 years to be stagnant in the space that we are. Even if the life that we have is joyful, even if it's a peaceful environment, that there resonates with us a sense of tranquility momentarily, but if that was the lifestyle that I had for a very, very long time, there would be an inner urge for me to have something more. And this, if you could relate, when you're home with a new baby, it's wonderful to have a new baby and to smell their hair after a bath and to have them snuggle and that time. But if you spent your entire life in that phase of being the caretaker, you would eventually feel out of balance and want something more. Am I correct? Mm-hmm. So have you heard the statement, a goal not written down is just a wish? Has anybody heard that?
Yeah.
Okay. So the thing that I want to focus some attention on is about setting goals. And I'm going to say three through this a few times. I'm going to use 3 examples on a few different things. So with this, I would recommend that set 3 goals and set an easy goal, an easily attainable goal, a short-term goal, and or a medium goal, and then a long-term goal. And the reason why I encourage that is if you set an easily attainable goal, something that you have wanted, you just haven't put your focus on, that if you finally decide, yeah, I think it's time that I learn to cook that new recipe. I've always wanted to do a fondant, haven't ventured into it, but I think I can do this. That could be an easily attainable goal if you take a class or read a book or watch a YouTube video. That's something that could be easily attainable. And a next goal could be such as like a medium goal. I've learned a few keys on the piano. I think that now is the time I would like to play a full song, do some practice, sign up for some lessons, that kind of thing. Just practice every day. You can eventually do that. It could be a medium goal. And then a long-term goal could be something such as a raise in of a certain skill or whatever you want to aim for. But there's a few things that encourage the mindset in moving forward, and being in a space of success and accomplishment with a short-term goal would help align yourself into that. So, but how do we choose a goal? And I know that when I was a young mother and people would say to me, what is it you want to do for yourself? And I would say, I don't know. I haven't actually focused on my own needs. I've pretty much been just focusing on making sure my kids are healthy and strong and in bed at the end of the day with their homework done. So when I would have those kind of questions, it would frustrate me because I didn't really feel confident that I had an answer. So a few of the skills that I learned when I started deciding that, yeah, it's time for me to really look into something for myself. These are a few things that I found for me. One of them is to do a brain dump. And what a brain dump looks like is we've had thoughts come up in our mind, and there's things that come up that we feel interest, but they're just fleeting. We'll think about it for a few minutes and we ruminate it a little bit. But back to a goal not written down, it's just a wish. Do a brain dump and spend some time maybe with some beautiful meditative music in the background, and just write down everything, even if it's just super crazy. Like, well, if I were going to set a goal, give yourself maybe 15, 20 minutes, have some music, and just be alone and think of every possible thing. These are my goals. I want to go skydiving, I want to learn French, I want to travel on the Riviera, all of these things that you could possibly think about, and just brain dump everything that can come into your mind, and then sit with it a little bit, and then you can fine tune it, maybe put something as, maybe that'll be next time, or I don't think I'm quite ready for that, or something may come because I'm like, no, that's not really an interest in me anymore, and you can cross it off. Another one is that if you see somebody that you admire, if there's somebody that you respect and they have a lifestyle that you like or they've accomplished something, you could ask them what goals they have set and see what the possibilities are for you. So you could learn a little bit about the goals that other people have set. And I know that I enjoy time with my sisters, and so when I'm with people who have spent a lot of time with me, I know that what I could do is ask them, you know, if you look at me, what goals would you set for me? What would you like to see for me? And so I could see if it resonates. It's not something that I have to own as my own identity, but it gives me opportunity to think things through a little bit. Another suggestion would be to review the last month, that whatever shows up in our life is showing up for us purposefully, and go through a review and say, what has the world around me been trying to teach me? You know, is there a billboard that keeps standing out? You know, every time you drive past and you see this billboard that says quit tobacco, does it resonate? Is it something that keeps like drawing your attention? Or is there, you know, every time you're in the mall and you see somebody playing a piano, does it have you linger there just an extra moment? Those kind of things could be messages that the world around you is sending you signals of something that you could probably progress into and feel really grateful about it. Another one is that I would recommend is that you be clear and specific about your goal. That if you say, I want more money, well, what does that look like? How does that show up? What is your expectation with that? And how do you know if you've accomplished the level that you want? Because say for instance that, you know, if you want to say I want more money, and then if you're in an environment and as maybe a hairstylist and somebody gave you an extra $5 tip than typical, well, that would qualify as more money, but is it really what you're really looking for? So I would recommend that say very specifically what it is that you're looking for in terms that are tangible and more understandable, so that you, again, back to this accomplishment zone. The next one would be to what inspires you and what areas could use improvement in your life. And do some self-reflection. Is there areas that you've been wanting to look into, or areas that you haven't been wanting to look into, but you know that you could use, such as drinking soda, that, you know, you hear that other people quit and you, oh gosh, I should stop drinking soda, but it's not something I really have wanted to look into. Maybe that could be something that you could look into. And another one could be, you know, is there a recurring theme in your life? Is there something that keeps showing up? Is there something, again, that draws your attention in ways, and I don't necessarily have an example, but there's quite often that there's themes that keep showing up. It may be something that you keep seeing in things. If you had healing abilities and you see these different opportunities where strengthening those healing abilities or those techniques could be more beneficial to you. And the final thing that I want to say about choosing a goal is I want to say give yourself permission to change that. We're not locked into once we say a goal, and that may be something that's holding us back from setting a goal, because say for instance you say I want to learn how to speak Spanish, and then you start speaking it and thinking, well, I don't really ever plan on using that. You know, it sounded like a good idea, and my friends took Spanish in high school, so I thought that's what I wanted. My parents, maybe one of my parents served a mission and they spoke Spanish, but then you can kind of come back and go, no, that's not something I really need right now at this my life. So give yourself permission to change that. So once you set a goal, and I would again recommend 3. So what I shared is I'm going to recommend that you do 3 goals: an easily attainable goal, a medium level goal, and a long-term goal. And once you set out with these goals, then I have a simple technique that can really set you up for success. And one of the things that sets people back from having success or attaining a goal is the work involved. And what do you have to give up in the life that you have now to have the life that you want to have? And is the work involved, or the labor involved, and the learning skills, or any of those kind of things involved? Is it worth what you're doing? So I'm going to change that kind of mindset by giving one simple tool that I haven't seen many people use. And that would be, once you establish your goal, I'm going to invite you to write down your goal every day. And and do nothing more but just write it down.